Governor Cuomo has pledged the MTA an additional $8.3 billion into their program budget, which I not to speak for everyone behind me, but I can tell you for myself, I think that's a good thing because we know that transportation leads to prosperity. It leads to jobs. For every $1 billion spent on transportation infrastructure, 28,000 jobs are created.
If you look at the scorecards for our bridges and infrastructure upstate New York, it's a D- or D+ at best. And we really need to improve our roads. We can sit there and say what it's going to have, the impact it's going to have on the community, but it does have an impact on the community because it means safer roads to get our kids to schools. It means safer roads to get people to a hospital with no bumps in the roads.
The fact that the governor is committing $8.3 billion to the MTA over the next 5 years is a good thing. The MTA is critical to New York City's economy and the New York City region's economy, and that economy is critical to the state's economy. So that's a good thing. But the fact is there used to be parity between investment and capital spending on transit and roads and bridges. And it worked that way for a couple of decades until 2009, 2010 when parity was lost. And since then we've spent about $6 billion more on transit than we have on roads and bridges. And so at a moment when the governor has shown the leadership to make the investment that the MTA system needs to meet its needs, and they're very real and significant needs, I think it's the right time to have the discussion about the needs of the rest of the state.
The city of Troy is 7 miles long, and in a 7-mile span, we have 6 bridges that enter into the city of Troy. Right? And one of those bridges brings us to the second busiest quarter in the region, which is Hoosick Street. And as we know and we heard repeatedly, that we are critically aware of the fact that the need for this transportation is. As a former college professor, I'm concerned with the grade of a D- or D+ that the American Society of Civil Engineers gave our state roads. If it was midterm, what I would say to my students, we need to make some major changes. And that's exactly what we're looking to do.
When we talk about how we're going to grow our upstate economy, that we make strategic investments in our infrastructure. And that's the commitment that I stand here ready to make to the governor. We have a governor who gets it. We have a governor who understands that to have strong, vibrant upstate economies, we need jobs. And he has been laser focused on growing jobs in our region and across upstate. That's what the Upstate Revitalization Initiative is about. And I've been deeply involved in creating a winning strategy for growing jobs, not just here in the city of Albany, but in the entire capital region. And one of the things that became very clear as we created our Capital 2020 plan is first, one of our greatest assets in this region is our location as a transportation hub with rail, water, and road access that really gives us a tremendous advantage in distributing goods throughout the Northeast and beyond. And second, what became very clear is that access to transportation for residents who live in our urban centers to be able to access jobs that are outside of our urban centers is one of the most significant barriers to accessing those jobs. So it's really quite the juxtaposition. Transportation is our greatest strength and also one of our major challenges.
There are serious needs throughout this state. We know the federal government is not providing the infrastructure, the transportation subsidies that we once had, and part of that is this is somewhat of a trickle-down problem, and I want to commend the governor for saying for committing to saying we will address the MTA issues.
This presents a great opportunity this coming session to make that reality happen, to make sure that the road hits the pavement in the right direction, and the silver lining in all this that Phil, Pat, and myself and others know in upstate. The upstate legislators are united. We're working together, and our main unifying source that started last year with the support of Speaker Hastie was transportation. That's what started it. That, I think, will carry us through this coming session.
If we're going to have parity upstate in terms of our investment in transportation infrastructure, we got to raise the revenue to do it. It's not just going to come like manna from heaven. The second point that I would like to make is that the MTA investment is a good thing for upstate New York. A lot of the jobs that will be created building that equipment is going to be upstate, but we need to make sure that those jobs are going to upstate and they're not going to foreign companies in other states?
For most towns, the highway department's budget is the largest expense. And most of you are familiar with the state's formula, the CHIPS distribution, which is a formula to distribute the funding that we do have. Now, in some small towns, that's the only funds they have to maintain their highways, whether it's pavement or whatever, bridges, culverts. The Office of State Controller has done a study that says we collectively, the local governments, provide $1 billion annually in funding. Now, our association several years ago funded a study to determine what our needs really are. And they determined over the next 15 years, it's $1.3 billion annually is a funding gap. Well, if you add the numbers together, we're funded approximately 45% of what our needs are. That's not a gap, that's a deep chasm, an ever-widening and deepening chasm that's about to engulf upstate's transportation infrastructure.